future trends, deep insights, industry leaders. This is the iGaming Next podcast with your host, Pierre Lindh.
And boom, we are live. Nico Jansen, how's it going?
Everything's fine. Weather's kind of good here in Germany. I'm sitting in Munich. How are you, Pierre? How are you? How are things in Malta?
I mean, I can't complain at all, to be honest with you. I mean, it's like every time we do this podcast, I don't know if there's something that goes together with just doing the podcast and beautiful weather, but we have that again, and there's always been the case in the previous episodes too. So I cannot complain at all. I'm very, very happy, Nico. As a little introduction today, Nico, I wanted to just say how we got to know each other now over the last couple of weeks, and I think this is a bit of a sunshine story, talking about good weather, of a silver lining that is COVID, you know. And you know, a couple of weeks ago me and Carolina Pelk set up this Clubhouse chat, basically to discuss the current topics within the iGaming industry. Clubhouse being the new social media phenomenon, right? Which is really hot at the moment, and you joined us on the last couple of weeks and chimed in on some really interesting subjects. And I just thought, you know, during this week that what a great opportunity to meet people through these Clubhouse chats. And I'm really happy that you joined this and we have kind of gotten to know each other through that. So I'm really happy, excited to have you on the podcast for that reason, actually. So first of all, just welcome to the podcast, and I hope everything is okay with you in general.
First of all, thanks for having me. And it's quite a strange story. If you just think about how small our industry actually is, right? I'm in the industry since 2012, 2013, and we never crossed paths. Probably we attended the same events, right? But we never or have not yet been introduced to each other. And then, you know, with the Clubhouse, and first of all, thank you once again to Carolina and you for just setting up the talk, where actually our small group of experts just meets on a regular basis with interesting topics, and each and everyone is just sharing his thoughts, sharing his story. And there's always a value in the Clubhouse session. So all perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Nico. And for anyone who wants to join us, by the way, it's Thursdays, 10 a.m. CET on Clubhouse. So we actually created a club now called iGaming Next. So if you are on Clubhouse, just search iGaming Next and join the club, and join me and Nico to discuss our current topics. So we'd love to have you there. So as a little starting point today, Nico, I mean, today's discussion is a very open-ended, big topic that is the iGaming industry in 3 years, you know. And like my friend Jesper Kärrbeck always says, the only people who think that they can predict the futures are the stock market analysts, and they always fail. But we're going to give it our best try today. And when we go back, I guess, in 3 years, we can laugh at how wrong we were about this. But nonetheless, here we go. So Nico, I mean, as a starting point, you're the CEO of Bet It Best, and I mean, feel free to explain a little bit what that is, and then I'd like to ask you, what are your general predictions and what's going to happen to this crazy industry in the next 3 years?
So what we actually do is we're like a price comparison website, price comparison app for the iGaming industry, for sports betting industry, with one big difference. So we run the KYC, we run the AML, and the customer stays on our end, and we just do the clearing and settlement of the bet on behalf of the customers with our integrated operators. And this is what we actually do. So as already introduced, I'm quite new to the industry, coming from an investment banking background, joining the industry in 2012, and just being thrown in the water, being kind of infected with this virus of combining the entertainment of sports and sports betting, being part of the game, and just running the business. And that's what we actually want to do. So this is how I actually came into the industry, and this is what we're doing.
Awesome, that's great to hear. And Nico, so what would you say now staying on the topic, starting with the topic today, the iGaming industry in 3 years' time. Like, what are your general predictions here? What direction do you see the industry taking?
So first of all, we will see way more markets being open, way more markets being finalizing their regulations, and then companies are actually exploring these markets, or in the end being legally operating in these markets. So if you just think about the United States of America, containing 50 states, roughly 20 of them have already their regulation in place. Like New York, New Jersey. But if you just think about California as being the biggest state with the biggest GDP, has not yet finalized on the regulation. So we will see more and more markets being opening, like also Brazil, which already has a kind of regulatory framework, but we will not see any official bet being placed by until 2022. So this is what we will see. And if you just think about, right, based on GDP basis, right, roughly 38-40% of the overall worldwide GDP has not yet agreed on a legal basis for gaming or sports betting, right? So if you just see that state by state, country by country, these possibilities will open up. Of course, this will also attract way more and bigger fish to actually join the market. Just remember 4 or 5 years ago, when the first rumor came up, like, okay, the US is about to open or include a regulatory framework, and people in Europe were actually desperately looking forward to enter the US market, which has mainly driven by all the daily fantasy sports companies like the FanDuels, the DraftKings. And out of a sudden, first state opened, and now all the sports betting companies which we have in Europe were desperately hopping over to the US, and now all the big companies, like the tech companies, the private equity companies, the Blackstones, just having their deep pockets, are kind of putting their money into the online gaming industry. So as it had been pretty niche when the overall gaming and gambling industry started back in the 90s, now it's lifted to the top, and by each and every market being open, being very attractive to investors. And the side effect of that investment banks literally closed or are not able to kind of run their business as they used to do, investors are looking forward and desperately looking into new opportunities to invest their capital. And that's the thing which will also drive the market per se. And these are thrilling times. These are thrilling times, beginning by the gaming industry to literally find its purpose, right? And then how we actually deal with all the side effects of our industry. Then, of course, there's the comparison to the tobacco and alcohol industry, just pretty close to it. And we will just see how the kind of former dealing in back rooms of hotels, etc., industry will now become a very important part of the entertainment industry as well.
Yeah. So do you see the locally regulated markets as kind of the key to bring the iGaming industry into a more, let's say, socially accepted future with all that comes with it, let's say?
Exactly. If you just think about when the first markets actually opened, first of all, gaming has been banned everywhere, right? And then market by market, country by country, they actually opened up. In the past, all the lotteries had been state-owned. And if you just remember the Gambelli decision back in 2023, when first of all this monopolies by state-owned had been torn apart, and then company by company actually left their land-based shops behind and entered the online market, and country by country opening to the public. And we're speaking about big countries like China, like India, like Canada, right? They are still not open to actually put the regulation framework in place. As soon as they will open up the market, that's the next level.
Yeah, exactly. That would take the industry absolutely to the next level. Do you think as well, Nico? So I guess there has been two voices now recently in regards to the locally regulated markets. On the one hand, there's the voices that say yes, to be able to clean up the industry, we need the local regulations. But on the other hand, there's also voices that are scared for the locally regulated market being overly regulated, and it's just very difficult to operate in those markets. Do you see that locally regulated markets could also be a threat to the industry?
Depends on how hard actually the regulators push the needle on the operators. First of all, regulation usually and always comes into place as soon as a market doesn't regulate itself, right? And this comes along with player protection, with payments, etc. So if the market does not agree to actually regulate itself, this will always bring up regulators to actually define the boundaries where the market is able to operate, right? Especially in Germany, right? The first framework started, or the initiative started back in 2006, and we just released a nationwide regulatory framework like last year. And it took us literally those 15 years to actually come up with a plan how to regulate itself. And until then, it had been a gray market. And as of now, we are becoming a white market. But if you just compare our industry with other industries like the mobile operating business, like the telecoms, the Vodafones, etc., as soon as it came to, having a plan based in Germany or in Malta or in Denmark, and if you have been traveling abroad, these EU roaming costs, it had been insane, right?
Yeah.
And then it was the regulatory telling them, okay, first of all, we give you actually the chance to regulate yourself. Each and everyone did not care about regulation. And then the European Parliament, the UE, finally decided, okay, these are the boundaries, and now you just have to stick to the rules. And I'm pretty sure this will happen especially in the EU, which we actually see. And this is how we came up with a regulatory framework also for gaming, right? Because first of all, you need to create that framework that actually companies being willing to follow that framework are able to follow that framework, right? And there will always be opportunity to actually follow the rules, and hopefully, and fingers crossed, to dry out that black market. Because as soon as revenue is shifting away from a regulated market to the black market, which is just one click away, and this is what we always need to keep in mind, there are no kind of borders, national borders. It's just one click away. You just use a VPN, and then out of a sudden you are somewhere in Asia or wherever, sign up for a casino, sign up for sports betting. So it's also in the interest of the regulators to actually keep the revenues and keep the player protection, what we're all aiming for, within their boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great dissection of the issue here. The fact that it's in the regulators' interest to have a sensible regulation for the channelization rates to remain high, obviously. And I guess that's where there's been a bit disconnect, perhaps, from the politicians who want to seem strong and they want to regulate the industry harshly. But then that results then in the channelization ratio going down, obviously. So looking at the US as kind of entering the mix here and being in its infancy, state by state is opening up, and obviously state by state is locally regulated as well in different ways. What do you think the industry needs to do now, learning from what's happened in Europe with the regulation coming into place in various markets here, to stay ahead of the curve regulatory-wise in the US?
So first of all, I'm pretty sure that also the regulators are taking a look and having a look at the lessons learned, which they had with the first initiative with the regulations that came into place, like New Jersey, New York, Wisconsin, to just name a few. And then based on these lessons learned, because the operators obviously follow these rules and follow these rule set, and what each and every state and regulator is quite keen on is getting additional taxes. And this is what the industry, being in a regulatory framework, has always delivered in terms of paying these taxes. And as long as we follow the rules of the player protection, which will become a USP in the United States, then it's quite obvious. Just taking this regulatory framework and apply this one to your home country, right? Because first of all the big players are based, the former big players used to be located in Europe, in the EU, and as of now entering the United States, they should also apply this rule set to their home countries as well. And I'm pretty thrilled to just see the impact on the overall regulations on the home country markets.
Yeah. Let's talk about player protection here for a moment, because it's also something we discussed in the Clubhouse session, right? Which is the fact that player protection is now becoming a USP, especially for the major players, which at first glance, if you're not a professional in the industry, might seem counterintuitive. Like, why would a gaming company care so much about player protection? Can you break that down a bit? What is the logic and the business case behind what we are seeing now, which is like a clear trend and shift towards genuine player protection?
So first of all, you need to be aware of that everything you do as an operator might also result in a bad result with respect to people kind of not being able to distinguish between, okay, this is a healthy behavior and this is a behavior where I just should stop doing this. And if you are pretty aware of this, like the Kindred group, right? They have this initiative that correct me if I'm wrong, by 2023 or 2024, yep. 2023, they will reduce the problem-related revenues to 0%, right? As of now, they are roughly around 4%. Of course, it's always depending on how you actually define problem-related gambling. But if you just keep that definition, which you have as of today, which leads to 4% of your revenues is related to this kind of group of revenues. If you just stick to that definition, then it's a very, very good thing. And this will also lead to another perception of the overall industry, because as of now, and I'm pretty sure you faced this issue as well, if you're talking to friends and family and you just tell them, okay, I'm in the gaming industry, they always have this link like, okay, you are making your revenues exclusively from addicts, which is, of course, some of our customers might be addicted, right? But in a short-term perspective, right, you just aim to increase your revenues with all strings attached. But in the end, and this is what the US is telling us, it's not a short-term race, it's a long-term marathon, right? And on a long-term marathon, you just need and you're obliged to educate your players, right? To take care of your players. And this is what all also the investors are taking a look at. As long as it's long-term revenues and promising revenues, and this is also based on other, as stated within my intro, there's still 38% of GDP still waiting for us to explore, right? And if we can get rid of that stigma of just dealing with addicts, so then the overall industry will have a different view from the outside view, and then we will finally find our purpose as just being as being an entertaining part of the overall ecosystem.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned the 38% GDP that is still kind of black markets that we're not able to enter right now. But there's also another way to look at this, which is the fact that the other 62% that we do access, there's still only a fraction of the population who do actually bet in or play casino or whatever within our ecosystem, right? So there's even within the locally regulated markets, there's still a huge market out there that is also unexplored, right? And solving player protection could also mean that we are able to bring in more reputable brands, and as a reputable industry, we're able to unlock kind of that part of the population as well, who kind of see the industry as stigmatized at the moment. What do you think about that?
So this is the ultimate goal. To be honest, this is the ultimate goal, and this depends on, in the end, on two factors. First of all, the operator being aware of that it's their obligation, and second, the operators actually spending money on this purpose. So as soon as we can combine these one and two things, then I'm happily just looking forward to actually getting rid of this stigma, and then for an overall more positive way of actually seeing our overall industry. Of course, you can slice and dice our industry into different verticals, right? Like the lotteries, the casinos, the bingos, etc. I'm just speaking about the sports betting industry, just the sports betting industry per se. And if we just compare the sports betting industry with the alcohol industry, like for instance Heineken, right? If you're watching a Champions League match, they are a sponsor of the Champions League for quite a while, right? And they are really using the perception of, okay, just share a beer with your friends, having a good time with your friends, and having some social activity. Of course, during the COVID-19 times, socially distanced, right? But you can still be surrounded by your friends and family, right? And taking this thought back to the sports betting industry, it's so interesting and so thrilling being part of the game, right? As of now, there are roughly around 2,500 to 3,000 people who actually play professional football on a first league level in all over Europe, right? So these are the players which we all see within the FIFA games, etc. So it's quite unique and rare to actually become a player standing on the pitch. But if we just transport this kind of message, okay, if you just place a bet on a specific outcome, you are still part of the game, and this is also the thrilling part, which we should emphasize. And this is also why I just see as the purpose, being still part of the game and becoming part of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more there, and I think the connection has to be obvious and natural. So I think that's where Heineken succeeded, right? It's such an obvious connection in that they convey in their marketing, which is the fact that you're at the game with your friends, you're having a beer, and this is kind of accelerates your emotions or whatever, and you're having a great time, kind of thing. And similarly, like you're saying with the sports betting as well, you're at the game and you're actually being a part of the game. It's the emotions that you want to celebrate. The winning or losing. It's something that should be obvious to everyone. So is that something that the industry needs to become better at? Kind of first of all, defining that purpose, and then secondly, conveying that to the general market.
First of all, you already have this kind of initiatives. If you just take a look at how the big operators actually advertise their offerings to the customers, it's still like, okay, people exchanging ideas of placing a bet, how you could actually win against the house, win against the operator. And this is in the end what it should be about, right? Connecting people, connecting thoughts, and just combining people and following the same purpose, right? Being part of the game and kind of telling or estimating how a game should end, because that's what it's all about in the sports betting industry, right? You're ahead of the curve and think that you actually know more than the operator. And this is the purpose which I see the companies are aiming for.
Yeah, or just betting with your heart. I mean, I would say that take a look at I thought that was so interesting, the presidential election in the US that took place in November, where the odds were so skewed from the reality, which actually turned out to be the election was much closer than was predicted, obviously. But Project 538 and all these aggregators of odds, they were saying that there's probably about a 1 in 10 chance that Trump will win. This was like the rational thought based on the real world, so to say. But people in general were betting more with their hearts in that regard, and they felt Trump, he's everywhere and he's a big figure, he's probably gonna win, whatever. And I did a podcast with Matthew Chaddick, who is the head of politics of GVC, the day before the election, right? And he said he has never seen anything like it in all his 15 years of producing odds for GVC and Ladbrokes, where the odds were so skewed in one favor, and the real odds, let's say, were completely detached from the reality. And obviously, because the betting volumes were so big on Trump, they skew the odds, to reflect that, so to minimize the risk,
Exactly.
And there was that was the biggest political, or the biggest sports betting event of the entire year that year, globally. Yeah, with billions being bet, and had Trump won, there would have been a lot of sad faces in the iGaming industry the next day, because there was so much money riding on this, even with the skewed odds. Something like 80% of the volume was bet on Trump, or something like that. Like crazy amounts of money were bet on Trump, So yeah, maybe if that would have happened, we wouldn't have had that much influx of money that we can see now in the industry, because there would have been some pretty bad losses on the sports betting fronts there. Yeah, interesting stuff, But so it goes back to the point, that maybe sport betting shouldn't always be about just trying to beat the bookmaker, but it should be more about going with your feeling, adding a little bit excitement. If I cheer for Bayern Munich, or whatever you like, Nico, as a German person, maybe I do that because I just love the team, and not because I am like investigating the odds. So maybe that is where the industry needs to define better, so to say. Or I don't know. Maybe we're already there in that regard.
It just depends on who you're betting with, right? So sometimes it's quite the opposite. If you just dislike a team like the New England Patriots, they have a lot of people who actually don't like the Patriots, the Pats, and this is why a lot of people actually bet against the Pats. Right.
Yeah.
It's also a chance to just express your inner guts, your inner feelings, and this can always be reflected in the actual betting patterns you're actually choosing.
Yeah.
Right. And this should be the way to chase regular punters. Right.
Absolutely.
A guy or a girl who actually just plays a 5 to 10 to 20 euro bet. That's it. Doesn't harm anyone. Right. But if you just recalculate the numbers and see the overall players who are actually willing to play these kind of low volumes, right, the overall revenue is still huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And so looking now into the future, so I think we can all agree that this is the purpose that the iGaming industry needs to find, and that will obviously lead to a brighter future for our industry. So in regards to where the trends are heading now, Nico, and the movement as we are seeing right now, and we just talked about player protection becoming a USP and these type of things. Looking into the crystal ball then in 3 years, how do you see this playing out on this front, with the iGaming industry being more accepted by society? And also, as a follow-up question, do you see that like reputable brands, let's say, ESPN, even other media companies like CNN, or let's say Amazon, that I know our friend Todd Hasshalter, he was speculating if Amazon will start a casino eventually and just kick everyone's ass, But how do you see this playing out in 3 years' time? Do you think the industry will get to the point where we become socially acceptable and these very reputable brands will actually jump on the bandwagon?
So first of all, we should just slice and dice each and every industry, right? How we can actually see an industry or how an industry change. And if you just take a look at the 5 forces model of Porter, right, where you just have the competition in the middle, and then there are 4 side effects which actually change the overall outcome of an industry with supplier power, new entrants, threat of substitutes, and the buyer power, right? So this is the overall ecosystem of each and every industry. Taking into account then the underlying of each and every industry, especially of an online industry, technology, right? So first of all, the iOS world has always been open for gaming industry, gaming companies. So you could literally download the app to actually run your sports betting operations, as long as you have been licensed in this territory. And if you just use the technology as the second layer, and the overall underlying layer being the regulations, right? And as said, more and more markets are about to actually open up, legalizing sports betting. So if the overall environment is very positive, then I'm pretty sure that the big tech companies are about to diversify their portfolio and actually enter a market which is legal, like Google did with opening their Google Play Store for sports betting companies, also for online casino, as long as you're regulated and licensed in that specific area. So we already see signs of things are being to change. And as long as this continues to do, and we become a reputable market and stay ahead of the curve, then there should be no reason for the big tech companies to actually enter the market. You named like the CNN, the ESPN, which are the broadcasters. You mentioned the Amazon, but what about Facebook? Right? What about Facebook, as they have a market power with their kind of roughly 2.1 billion people using Facebook each and every month, right? It's like daily users also in the billions. It's crazy. So if one of these heavyweights is actually taking a look in diversifying their portfolio, then we will see the big money and the big wallets actually being opening, and it's all the tech companies. You just name Amazon, the Facebooks, the Googles, etc. Right? And this will be quite thrilling times.
Yeah, so it's we're talking, or Clubhouse for that matter. Who knows? But I don't know how you would bet on Clubhouse, but anyway. But I mean, what we're talking about here is like a paradigm shift, where the massive disruption of the industry, right? And it's something that again, our friend Todd Hasshalter, he talked about this in 2019 at iGaming Next. What could disrupt the iGaming industry? And he said, it's a healthy conversation to have sometimes. If you go back to the 90s again, like you mentioned, where the online gaming industry was born, and you would have asked on a land-based casino, what is the biggest threat to our industry? They probably would have said, some investors building a new Las Vegas in Spain or something like that.
In Macau.
In Macau. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, which is in a sense, yes, they are right about that, but they are missing the forest for the trees in that respect, right? For not seeing what the technological advancements will be, and where the trends are heading, and so forth, and where the internet then could bring to the industry. And similarly here, if we talk about the industry now, if the trend now is heading towards the industry cleaning itself up, at first glance, if you are, Bet365 or the GVCs of this world, you would think that this is a great thing for us, because it means that we are unlocking a bigger part of the population as a potential demographic of ours. But then at second glance, you would think that maybe this is allowing these massive players to enter the market. And if they do, and they decide to do it on an exclusive basis, so let's say Amazon starts Amazon Casino, and just ring fences the entire market. What happens then to the Bet365 and the GVCs? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? What are your thoughts? Big questions here.
No. It's a great question. It's a great question, and we should always, or just have a look at other industries, right? How actually an industry had an external shock. If you just think about in 2003, which is way back, right? Based on the rocket Columbia being exploded, right? So the NASA laid off a lot of people, a lot of smart people who actually had been great people dealing with numbers, etc. And they actually touched down at investment banking, right? And this actually was based on this kind of external shock, right? And out of a sudden, all this automatic trading, algo trading became a thing in the banking industry, right? Taking this kind of thought to the next level, if you just think about 5 years back in time, automotive industry, right? If you're talking about the Volkswagens, the kind of Rovers, the kind of Porsche, etc., right? Ask Volkswagen, okay, where will the industry be in the next 5 years? They're like, okay, we will still deal with engines powered by fuel, right? And out of a sudden, this crazy guy from South Africa, Elon Musk, over to California, he literally put all his efforts into Tesla, right? And out of a sudden, the overall game just changed, right? Also with an external disruptor. And this will also be the case within each and every industry as well, right? So you will always have this kind of competition, and sometimes you will have an external factor. And then I wouldn't consider this as being arrogance with respect to you're leading the pack, you're a tier one operator like the Bet365 you just mentioned. William had been a tier one operator as well, and out of a sudden, the Caesar Entertainment Group just comes along the way and actually buys this kind of well-known industry player, right? And this is what can always happen. And in the end, innovation and keep moving things forward is always a good thing, right?
Absolutely, you just have to stay ahead of the curve, I guess, and not become the blockbuster of this world. Let's say against Netflix, Blockbuster having all the opportunities in the world to take over the streaming market, but not recognizing the trends in time, and eventually they were not able to move, and eventually died as an organization from being, a multi-billion dollar company. And there's another interesting statistic as well that the companies in the S&P 500 in the year 2000, there's like a majority of them don't exist anymore. I say
exactly.
So,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The trends
or all the
Yeah,
bookshops, right? All the bookshops, right? And then out of a sudden, an Amazon just appears, right?
Yeah.
And they just take away your revenue. So if you stop innovating, right, then you're not staying ahead of the curve, and then just the competition, they will literally kind of dry you out. And just remember when Netflix was on the for sale market for 10 million. So you could have bought Netflix for 10 million, and out of a sudden, it just probably changed the business model. They had been funded in a better way, and out of a sudden, they are now way ahead of the curve with the Netflix, with the Amazon, with the Disney Plus, right? And so we coming back to our industry, right? So as soon as you don't innovate properly, as soon as you don't explore additional market, and as soon as you don't take your customer basis, or as soon as you don't take your customer basis for granted with respect, I don't need to take care of my customers anymore, then your customers will actually go away, as it's literally just one click for another operator, right? And if you just take a look at all the big companies and all big brands, which used to be in our industry, like the BWins out of there, right? Leading the curve, it was greatly invented by Carsten, who is now the CEO and founder of, not the founder, but CEO of Sportradar. He just invested into two Nordic guys, which just had a great idea, turning out that he's now leading the pack with the statistics providing. And this is what it's all about. See potential, believe in the potential, and then just go straight forward and actually exploring this potential.
Yeah, absolutely. And, maybe the iGaming industry has been in kind of a honeymoon phase as well. Being a new industry in general, we haven't really seen any disruptive events to ourselves. We've seen paradigm shifts, right? From desktop to mobile, for example, was a paradigm shift, but it didn't really have any impact on the major operators. Some of them were later than others, and that's how LeoVegas was born, right? They were the first to understand that mobile is the future, and hence they managed to grow rapidly. But in the end of the day, it wasn't a disruptive event for the operators now 10 years later. But so maybe we have become a little bit let's say spoiled in that regard, that we don't really know how to think about real disruption that other industries have been forced to do. You mentioned a couple of examples. I mean, Nokia is a great other example, who were on top of the world, and then they lost the eye on the ball, and the entire company crashed, obviously. But so looking into the crystal ball, because there's so many disruptive technologies in the next 3 years that we'll see maturing, and I would say like 5G as an example being one of them, who can radically change the world. I mean, look at the difference between 2G and 3G, how that completely changed the world. And now we are looking at a new paradigm shift here from 4G to 5G, which is going to change the world in ways we don't understand yet, right? So what will that mean for our industry, and how can we leverage it, or how can our other people leverage it, and in combination with the fact that we are moving into a future that is potentially looking like we are going to clean up our reputation, and that also, like we said, can potentially bring in other industries. And I've lifted this before in the podcast, but I have a prediction what I think will happen in the next 3 years on the sports betting side. That's of interest to you, obviously, Nico. I think that with the move that DAZN just made with hiring Shay Segev from GVC, I think that's a clear strategic move to potentially bring in sports betting into their platform, and therefore cutting the middleman. Let's say you don't need to have two accounts. You can just bet directly into the DAZN's platform, and hence that bringing in a new demographic as well. And what happens if they do that, and then like we mentioned before, ESPN Plus, it's another platform. Why wouldn't they flip the switch? If now, I mean, we're speculating now, but if DAZN would do that, that might provide a massive paradigm shift, and that all of a sudden, for the general daily sports better, you don't really have a reason anymore to create an account at Bet365 if you're anyway subscribing to DAZN, and you anyway have the opportunity to play sports betting there as well. I mean, there's a lot of different angles into what can happen.
100% agreed, right? But just take into account that even Sky and Sky Betting, right? Literally, they set up the Sky Betting platform, being in the end linked to the TV network as well. But continuing with the Zone, who's actually originated from the Perform Group. Right, they are in the end holding all the media rights, and they are just diversifying their portfolio. So this will be very, very interesting to have a look at it, right? And as of now, or 2 or 3 years ago, I'm pretty sure it's still the same. Bet365, they had been buying all the media. They just needed to operate their business also from the Perform Group. Right, and they were the #1 customer, right? And as soon as the Zone is now switching the kind of we rely on you, and now you rely on us as we're a competitor in your in the end backyard, this will be very, very interesting to see. And in the end, I'm pretty sure that Denise is still well funded. better funded that probably the Perform Group actually is. So as long as these guys and girls and all these entrepreneurs are aware of this, and just imagine 20 years ago, I'm pretty sure it was this week or last week when Bet365 had their 20 years being operating. So 20 years ago, each and everyone was thinking that Denise is crazy because she literally shut down all the land-based shops they had, and she was literally jumping into the online world, and obviously she succeeded. So although she did not yet, or in the end, you can't change the past, she did not process the overall first online bet, which had been processed by Intertops from a Finland guy, right, who was just literally betting $50 on Tottenham winning a match with a very, very small odd. But this is actually how things have changed. And getting back to your point, this is also very, very interesting, right? It's still related to this underlying events of sports, right? Seeing sports. And then all the side effects, all the businesses which are literally linked to this kind of underlying events, and this for sure will not change. But getting back to the point with technology and 5G, maybe within the next time span, we will also see, based on the 5G, different ways to actually place a sports bet, right? Being or taking over the view of a player in esports. It's still already possible, taking into account all the different Twitch channels, and maybe we will just see this one in the sports betting industry as well. So there's a lot of potential as of now. Of course, the revenue driver is football with 65-68%. But there are also niche sports who will actually or have the chance to actually become a way more revenue driver, like table tennis did during the lockdown, and when you had literally no football matches being played, and out of a sudden people actually found the love for table tennis. And it's always thrilling times, and I just keep my fingers crossed that everything will work out.
Yeah, exactly. It's very interesting times right now. It feels like we're just behind these types of paradigm shifts. And just going back to the one last point on the 5G, it's the same thing there. When we think about how can that technology, disrupt our industry, you would think, okay, 5G, iGaming, what is the natural connection? Do we need internet speeds to bet quicker? I mean, but just think about this. It was actually a report that came out today that rumored Apple's next product or next paradigm shifting product, which is the fact that they are rumored to release AR glasses. And these AR glasses are rumored to only weigh 140 gram. And you're like, how is that possible that they can make these glasses as light as normal glasses? But then you realize, because if 5G if 5G takes foothold, or when it takes foothold rather, and the technology matures, that means that you'll be able to offload the actual processing that goes on in the technology from the glasses. So you won't have an actual processor in the glasses. That will happen externally in the cloud, right? So you can have, a supercomputer power your glasses, because with the speed of 5G, you'll basically be able to have that computing power in real time in your glasses. So the only thing that the glasses need to do is to be a receiver, right? And if you can enable that type of technology, it means that when you're at a sports stadium wearing your Apple AR glasses for 1,500 euro or whatever they're going to overprice it at, then maybe you will be able to see live odds as they happen in the glasses in the stadium, or you'll have a little icon over every player's head, saying what is the odds for this player scoring the next goal or something like that, or just giving you general information. That is the type of technology that is going to change the world and also change our industry. So I just thought that was quite interesting. I just saw that report today and thought that could be something that the industry needs to look out for.
Exactly. They literally took over the idea of Google Glass. Right. In the end,
Yes,
Google
back in the day.
had been kind of trying to find a solution with this kind of Google Glass. I think they had Google Glass 1 and Google Glass 2. But in the end, it literally all comes up to one thing: how small you can actually make a device, right? Maybe within the next 5 years, we are not speaking about glasses anymore. We are just speaking about lenses, which you actually put into your eyeball, and this will also be quite interesting. In the end, processing data, as you mentioned, the actual processing happens in real time somewhere in the cloud, and this is opportunity for each and everything.
Yeah, exactly, and that's also leads to the next question, which is if these glasses are just receivers, you can make the same example to your computer and to your phone. Your phone will just become a fancy receiver eventually when the speed of 5G and the cloud become powerful and mature enough, basically. And then we're looking at processing power in your phone. Again, of a supercomputer potentially, just like you're buying storage now in the cloud. Maybe you're buying computer power in the future. And what's that going to have for an effect in the iGaming industry is only for us to speculate, I think.
Exactly. Then we're talking about live dealers, and as you mentioned, that you actually, while sitting in the arena, in the stadium, having a look at a specific match being operated, and you just see the odds on top of the player, which is as of now it just sounds odd. But maybe that's the next
in 3 years time.
Exactly.
3 years
with
time.
augmented reality, etc., and we will just see, right? Who would have thought, like 14 months ago, like okay, we need the exhibitions, we need to see face-to-face people, etc. 14 months later, we're all sitting in home office, and the business we're seeing now, it's Clubhouse. Who knows what will happen within the next 3 years?
Exactly. Who knows? The next Clubhouse 2.0. Who knows what it's going to be? What do you think is the most likely, Nico? Kindred reaching 0% revenue from gambling, or will have the AR glasses 2024 with the sports betting opportunities in the stadium?
So I'm pretty sure that Kindred is doing a great jobs. Of course, this raises the pressure as soon as you just come up with a claim like this, right? Because as long as you're kind of internally speaking about things that you want to reduce things, you can still kind of release or come up with a press release. Okay, we did not do it in the way we intended it to do, but you can still slice and dice it. But as they have been very, very, in terms of positively aggressive in naming this kind of target, I am pretty sure that they're willing to do this by actually still listening to the mission of problem-related revenues and problem-related gaming. And this kind of 4%, I'm pretty sure that they will be able to tackle this kind of 4% within the next 2.5 years of time. And this will be a good thing for the overall perception of our beautiful industry. And they are just paving the way, right? And it just takes these kind of odd and crazy sounding statements to actually move things forward.
Absolutely, very, very interesting. Will be to follow the progression here on both fronts. Actually, I have a last topic that I wanted to talk to you about today as well, Nico, which is if we now look at the stock market and the stock market in general going absolutely crazy right now. There's a lot of influx of money into the stock market. Obviously, the US pumping in a lot of money into the system, which part of it is going into the stock market, and it's becoming a thing now for the general daily layman to invest in the stock market as well, which also driving revenue into the stock market. If we look at the iGaming industry specifically, and take Evolution as an example, Evolution Gaming or Evolution Global as they call themselves now. The market cap of Evolution And if you take the PE number, basically, how many times how many years will it take for Evolution to just to earn revenue to pay their own market cap? You are looking at a PE number of 80 plus years right now. So that means that if you want to buy Evolution, you need to pay 80 years worth of the revenue that Evolution had in the last 12 months. Do you think this is sustainable? Is it justified? It's not the same for all iGaming companies, I must say. Betsson, for example, has a much lower PE number, but there are some examples of this with this 80 plus PE numbers in the iGaming industry. How do you view this? What's your opinion?
So first of all, we shouldn't consider the stock market and stock markets rallies and the pricing we actually see as being pretty reliable. First of all, when I've been introduced into the understanding of investment banking and how a stock market price should actually reflect reality, right? It's like, okay, well, what is reflected? Okay, it's first of all, it's the industry knowledge you have. It's like the properties you have. It's the patents you're holding. It's your IPO, right? And then it kind of came up with, okay, it's a promise to the future. And this is also something which you need to take into account as soon as you kind of calculate the pricing for stock markets. As of now, overall in the world, stock markets are going nuts, right? If you just think about the stock market price for Tesla, is double the times of Volkswagen and BMW and Mercedes-Benz probably. And this is what is just crazy. But getting back to the point when we have been talking about the US and companies actually exploring the US, and still roughly 40% of the overall global GDP not being touched yet, plus that, and this is the point which you mentioned, that even the 60% which we are already tackling with the offerings we have, we can still gain more revenues with the existing market. It's just a promise into the future. And as you have said, I wouldn't state like probably the Betsson Group has a less promising future like Evolution Gaming, but in the end, the overall industry is pretty serious and becoming serious money, right? If you just think about all the M&A activities like 10 or 15 years ago, and the overall amount of unicorns we actually had within our industry, and this has changed drastically within the last 5 or 7 years. Also based on all the private equity companies from the US entering the markets with their deep pockets. So as of now, we have a lot of companies who are actually unicorns. Just think about Sports Radar, right? They are probably, although they will always deny it, thinking about doing an IPO, and their estimated overall value as of now is roughly around 12 billion euros, which is crazy. Oh. But this also shows and indicates what opportunity is just around the corner for our overall industry.
Yeah. Is it also, do you think it's also a reaction from the market that the iGaming industry turned out to be both pandemic proof, which is a new expression, I guess, and also recession proof at the same time? So do you think that plays a part of it as well, why we see these high PE numbers within the industry?
Yes, for sure. Usually as soon as economy goes down, the revenues of gaming are going up. Right. As of now, and this is what we have seen in Germany, if you just take a look at the official numbers which have been broadcasted by the Deutsche Sportwettenverband, right? You could see a drop in March and April, because usually April and May are the strongest month within the sports betting industry. How come? Because it's all the finals, right? All the European leagues come to an end. You have the Champions League half final, you have the final, so everything comes to an end, and this is where the revenues are generated. This is where a good year distinguishes itself from from a not so good year. And if you just take away these 2 months where you had literally no games being played, of course you have you're going down. The curve is going down, and this is what we have actually seen. But in the end, and over the time span of the overall year, the overall curve had been within the amount or the revenues of the last year. So as said, so we are pretty crisis-proof and pandemic-proof.
Brilliant. So as a closing thought today, Nico, I mean, now it's a lot of sunrise and roses here today for the iGaming industry. But can we be a little bit specific and say who will be the winners and who will be the losers? Now we come down to the real predictions here, and then we can go back in 3 years and say that we were completely wrong about this. What do you think? Do you have any predictions?
I'm pretty sure, first of all, that as soon as it comes to the purpose, that the overall gaming industry just needs to take that purpose pretty serious. And then if we take this purpose serious, the overall winner will be the players, right? First of all, the players. That we as the operators will come up with a solution to actually help them to keep it more entertaining, the overall industry. And so I'm pretty sure it will be the player who will be one of the winners. I wouldn't name any companies per se, but we will see some of the companies who actually placed the first bet. Maybe there are rumors going around that they will enter the markets again. But for sure, one thing which will be a loser will be the black market. If regulation continues in the pace as it's continuing as of now, and people are actually taking all these side effects of becoming a legit market as well, and then the black market will be one of the losers.
Yeah, that's. I think that's well put to say. You know, if these things happen, then 1 + 1 is 2 type of thing. And as a closing thought today, I thought just an example of when predictions can go both right and wrong. There is a brilliant discussion between Bill Gates and Steve Jobs back in 2005, I think, in the conference that's called All Things Digital. This is a full talk that's available on YouTube, and I highly recommend anyone to view it, because it really goes to show the brilliance of Steve Jobs particularly. So they were asked the question in this panel. So there was just a fireside chat between the three, and they were asked the question, what do you think? What are your predictions for technology in the next couple of years? And Bill Gates is a much more systematic thinker, right? So he sees things in steps, and for him, it was quite obvious what the future would be. He said, the predictions, the advancements in prediction technology and merging our life with technology will basically mean that in a couple of years, whenever you enter your house, you will see like all your walls in your living room will be predictions, and you can interact with these predictions. You can see what the weather is going to be like. You can see the TV, and this is like him thinking that we're going to merge with technology, and 1 + 1 is 2 in his systematic way of thinking. Now, we can say that now that that obviously did not happen, not even remotely close to anything like that. And even the moderator follow-up statement to that was like, can I be in a room where there's no predictors? Jokingly, and because that's in the end of the day, we maybe not want to be that immersed in technology. And then compare that to Steve Jobs' answer. So he did not want to give any specific, very detailed answer to this question, but what he did say is that he thinks that the era of the personal computer is going to be over, like the PC era is going to be over, and it's going to be replaced by something new and something much more personable, let's say. And he knew that there was a paradigm shift that was about to happen, which turned out to be, touch screens and these type of things, and that will completely change the landscape. He didn't predict or maybe he knew already at 2005 probably that smartphone is going to be the next technology, but he didn't want to say it, I guess, in that conference. But he knew that the era of the PC, which at that time had massive market cap, would eventually be over, and that turned out to be true.
Yeah, there was this little one more thing, right? There
yes,
was this
exactly.
little, and one more thing. How Apple usually just makes a secret out of everything. Also with their Apple car, the Titanium project, or as you have stated with the glasses, right? But what is your prediction on the winners and losers of the gaming industry within the next 3 years?
All right, Nico. Okay, so my prediction, I would say, is similar to yours. It's gonna be a massive change in the industry, I think, based on what we have talked about in this podcast, which is the fact that player protection is becoming a USP. What will that mean for the future? I think we're already seeing reputable brands entering the market, Foxbet being one of them. I think just the fact that a brand like that is entering the mix is a clear indication of where things are going. So that would be a prediction number one. I think that we will see reputable brands entering the market, and prediction number two is emerging technology in general. I think that the winners will be the ones who are having these discussions, like you and me are having right now, or for the people who are listening, will also be the winners who can perhaps take this discussion. And the points that we discussed today, and maybe one of them will be the person who tomorrow goes out with their dog and come up and goes out on a long walk and comes up with the next amazing idea based on the emerging technology that we will be seeing in the next couple of years. 5G being one of them. That is a more obvious example, but maybe there are examples that we don't see right now. And even looking further than emerging technology, it could also be the cultural shift that we are looking at right now. ESG type matters, where the winners seems to be organizations that will take corporate responsibility, that are sustainable, that are environmentally friendly and socially responsible, which is more relevant for the iGaming industry, like Kindred, for example. I think definitely Kindred have taken the first step now to be one of the winners in a couple of years. And it might seem like a very bold and crazy move on their behalf. How are they going to be able to do this? But I think that if they're going to emerge as the winners, they have to do it now. That is the ethos, I think. And if you are not following suit to Kindred, I think then you will be one of the losers. So those will be my very humble predictions. And I'm looking forward to go back to this conversation and just say, oh my God, what were we talking about? But yeah, anyway, that's it.
Yeah.
How could you miss this obvious thing, But that's the way things are, the paradigm shift seems obvious after they happen, but not so obvious before they happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's always quite easy to give a prediction ex post, right? Saying like, okay, so from a Sunday perspective, the Saturday matches results are X, Y, Z, because you already know them. But knowing the results of the matches ex ante would be quite right. It would be quite nice. So we will see. Exactly. But it's still thrilling times. It had been thrilling times back in the 90s when the overall industry of the online industry actually started, because the gaming industry is way older than the both of us are combined. Right? But in the end, it have always been thrilling times, and it will be thrilling times, and we will see a lot of shifts, maybe into this direction, maybe into that direction. Virtual reality once had been a big thing in the kind of estimates. As of now, I don't see any virtual reality casinos around us. Again, maybe this will come up with a 5G. Again, with the glasses, we don't know yet. But as long as we are receptive to change and changes, then we can still be part of the game and not being left behind. And this is what we should all be looking for.
Absolutely. Maybe we can ask Denise Coates to put up some odds on Bet365 of the next paradigm shifts. Who knows? Nico?
Yeah, I will give her a ring later. And then I will tell you what she answered.
Oscar. Nico, it's been an absolute pleasure today. Thank you so much for coming on. We can talk for hours about this, and it's an interesting subject. So yeah, thank you. Let's do it again soon, buddy.
Okay, we will. Okay, have a lovely day and stay healthy. Also to the audience, stay healthy.
Yes.
Also from your mind perspective. Okay, bye bye. Thank you for the time.
Thank you so
for
much.
having me.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.